Hey, blessings everyone. This is Lacey Dawn Jackson, the Groovy Green Goddess, and I hope you're having a wonder-filled day today. I can't believe that it is like the middle of August. Can you believe that? I'm still way back in June and just trying to get my footing. I swear it's been a journey. Lots of changes, lots of shifts taking place, good ones, challenging ones. When I talk with my clients, we're all going through shifts. We're all going through challenges right now. And, frankly, what it is just getting us, if we haven't been on our spiritual path or doing what we need to do for ourselves, the universe is kicking us into gear. So, with the eclipse on Monday and everyone preparing for it, I keep forgetting that the eclipse is going to be on Monday, which is really funny. I will ask someone what they're doing, or, the other day, one of the massage therapists that come down to the resort that I am a part of, said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming down on Sunday." And I'm like, "Well, why are you doing that? She wasn't supposed to be here until Monday night." And she's like, "Well, because of all the traffic, I won't get from Seattle to the ocean because there will be lots of traffic." So, I guess that everyone is planning to, be traveling that day. And I will be up in Port Townsend. If any of you are familiar with Port Townsend, a Victorian town up on the peninsula in the northwest of Washington State, I have 4 days of readings, intuitive readings planned at the Phoenix Rising bookstore. And I love going up there. I see people from all over the world, so it will be interesting to be doing readings on such a fantastical, magical day. So wherever you are, I hope that you enjoy your Monday. But okay, so I have been doing a series on the mysteries of the lost lands. And the lost lands have been, or they are, Lemuria, Atlantis, and Avalon. And today I'm going to primarily focus on Lemuria. Last week we took a test to determine what lost land you resonate with the most, and you can find that test on my show that's archived over at 12 Radio, or you can listen and watch me Facebook Live on my page, Groovy Green Goddess, at Facebook. If you want to pose a question, certainly go into our private chat room over at 12 Radio and ask to join, and you can ask questions or put comments in. That's usually where I do readings, and I will really work at getting a reading to you today through the midst of this. Last week I said that I was going to do a reading, and I can't remember, but I don't know if I ever did or not because there was so much information. But we will be talking about Lemuria, and I, even though I resonate more at this time with Avalon, I absolutely resonate with Lemuria. And Lemuria has always been this energy around that, whether I'm conscious of it or not, it always comes to me. And what I mean by that is back in 2011, I felt the draw to move up into the San Juan Islands, and I lived in Roche Harbor on outside of Friday Harbor. That's the San Juan Island, and it is surrounded by the Salish Sea, and very magical place. I got a lot of information during that time, during my meditations, of presence of Lemuria energy around that the landscape. And some of the meditations that I did brought forth an experience of the Great Flood and the natives that lived on the islands at the time, and what they went through, and the Madrona tree, and how important the Madrona tree was to them. And that's certainly a whole other episode, my magical experiences up in the San Juan Islands at the Salish Sea. But I really got a lot of Lemurian energy when I stayed up there and lived up there. Incredible vortex, and a lot of remembering of times living in Lemuria. I also have resonated years ago when I was doing readings at this same bookstore up in Port Townsend. They have all kinds of crystals from all over the world, as well as statues and books. But there was a crystal ball that for months, when I would go up there once a month, this crystal ball kept calling me, and it was way out of my price range at the time. One day I mentioned to the owner how drawn this crystal ball just kept drawing me in. And she said that the crystal ball was a Lemurian crystal ball, and that it was quite spectacular, and that's why it was so much more than the other crystal balls. And because the crystal ball and I had an infinity together, she ended up letting me take the crystal ball home, and I made payments to her for quite some time. And fast forward just a couple years ago, and I have talked about this on previous shows, but just a couple years ago, I was asked to have my crystal ball involved in an art installation downtown Olympia. And I'll keep this story very short, but this crystal ball ended up getting stolen. It just got, stolen, and it took almost 3 months for this crystal ball to appear back to me in magical circumstances. And what was funny during the time was everyone else was freaking out about this crystal ball being stolen from me, and I was calmer than I don't know, it was just weird. I was very calm about it, and just knowing that if the crystal ball was still my crystal ball, that it would come back to me. And it made perfect sense that, yes, the crystal ball made its way back to me. But when I have studied the Lemurian ways and stuff, one of the most important aspects of the Lemurian civilization is their crystals, and that their Lemurian crystals help facilitate healing and protection, and it also brings on this holographic sense, so you are able to see things in holograms. And once a crystal is yours, or the crystals choose us, and this crystal ball chose me, and it it came back to me, and it had quite the journey, but it was because of this magic that was immersed in this crystal ball of my energy for many, many years. And if it didn't want to come back to me, it wouldn't have, but it did. And before I get into, oh my gosh, it's so heavy. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the Lemurian civilization and everything about it, I will show you my crystal ball. But this is my Lemurian crystal ball. I just love it. My crystal ball. Yes. It just told me that it would like to sit out on my deck during the eclipse, which I'm going to have to figure that one out because I won't. I'll be out of town, so maybe I could put it in the window or something. I'll figure that out, crystal ball. But okay, before we get started, I want to just give you a station break, and I am the station break. I am this program is brought to you by Juice Plus. And Juice Plus, the reason I take Juice Plus is because I feel so much better. And again, I am not a salesperson, but I got the message a couple months ago, and I put it off to start talking about Juice Plus and let people know that it is incredible. And so if you're interested in they are not vitamins. What they are is vegetables and fruits that are dehydrated, that are in capsules. And you know, when I take them, I don't need to take vitamins. And they really, you know, we get our vitamins from our vegetables and fruits anyway. And in the society and the ways that we live these days, it's really hard to get our fruits and vegetables in. So I'm a big advocate for Juice Plus. And if you want to find out more about Juice Plus, you can certainly go to Groovy Green Goddess or the 1-2 Radio, and I will post a link there, or you can contact me, private message me, and I would be happy to give you the scoop on why I love it so much and why I think you would benefit from taking it. So there you go. Station break, commercial. Now we're back. And I'm taking a drink. All right. So, in the beginning, Lemuria or Mother Earth, I'm going to start there. Mother Earth, we used to be a much more bigger landmass. Before Mother Earth started, shifting and changing, and the land masses separated. But Lemuria was all over, okay, all over Mother Earth. And Lemuria, the people from Lemuria, some of their ancestors were from like the star system, like the Palladian system, and the different Sirians and the Arcturians, and the different solar systems, some that we haven't even happened upon yet in our science. So the Lemurians, they lived in many different areas that are now separated. But what is believed when you watch documentaries, when you read books on Lemuria, is that the biggest part of Lemuria is in the Pacific Ocean, in the Pacific Islands, some of the greater northwest of the Americas, and as far away as Australia and New Zealand. So in Asia, there's a lot of legend in Asia about Lemuria. A lot of legend and similarities to our symbols and stuff in these different continents that just they were there. And it was because of our landmass was, all together. So with that being said, when it did start to separate, or if there were separations, the land was connected by light bridges, okay? And I'll explain that a little bit more a few minutes from now. But the Lemurian people, last week I gave you some clues as to what the Lemurians were like. And we have Lemurians that live among us now, that have been reborn, that have come back to help us. And in this state of affairs that Mother Earth is in right now. But Lemurians, they are very tribal people. So they got along very well in communities. That was just their way. They very, very tribal. They did everything as a community. Everyone was known as their brother, their sister. And the whole community was as one. So it was like everyone lived in peace. Everyone was very intuitive. And it wasn't anything out of the norm to see a unicorn or see fairies. Fairies were very big in helping the Lemurians tend their gardens. And I apologize right now if I'm going to jump all over the place because that's just what I do when I'm getting this information, when I'm remembering, what I have studied in books as well as through my meditations and stuff. Even though I have notes, it doesn't help me go, so I'm like jumping all over the place. But the Lemurians were primarily vegetarian. They did, some of them did eat seafood very sparingly for the protein, or depending on what was going on. There was no disease, and now this was early in the civilization, before it started to break down, before Atlantis and Lemuria met each other and started cohabitating and doing experiments and stuff like that. And that came much, much later, thousands of years later. But the environment that the Lemurians lived were just of peace. They definitely had this, there were no liars, no like upheaval at all. And that was because they really shined through their essence, their clarity, their inside. They were so pure inside that lying was not even a thought to them. doing someone wrong wasn't even part of their language. And speaking about language, really the only time that they communicated through sound was when they were doing ritual work, when they were, singing, and they would make a sound. But other than that, they communicated, they teleported their communication to one another. And it was just natural for them to, that's where they didn't have anything to hide, because they were like a clear conduit to everyone else, the whole group, the whole tribe, could see what that person was all about, and the person wasn't trying to cover up anything, and it was real, it was honest, it was transparent, and they really lived kind of nomadically. What they would do is they lived in temporary houses, depending on the season, depending on what part of Mother Earth they lived upon. They would use their, the methods that they had to build. Like if they did build something, it was usually round or in a 5-point. And they would make sure that they would have windows that would welcome like the sunrise and give homage to the sunset. And they were very much people that would that was so important to them, was our light. Okay, now they didn't mind the darkness either. When the dark came, when night came, they just huddled in, and they were at peace with the dark. But when the light would show itself, they were there to pay homage and let the light shine upon them, because they knew very much that the sunrise, the dawn, is still a very magical time for them and for us, and that they would always be ready to be there in the dawn hours, and welcoming the sun and the light back in. So I'm going to take a drink here. Hydrate. And that's something else that I find interesting when studying the Lemurian ways, is that it was very, very important for them to be around water. And something that that I learned a while back is, even though not all of them lived near water, they made it a point to, such as wear crystals or stones that would help them acclimate to the environment that they were living if they did not live near water. For example, let's say that we live near water, and we get this negative ions that are very positive for us, that rejuvenates us, that clears our energy. Now, if we live inland, such as some of them did, they lived inland, that the pine trees, the pine needles also exude that negative ion. So by making sure that they had that pine smell, or that the pine needles around them, pine trees, then they would also have access to keeping their bodies as clear and pristine, and help them in their healing ability. abilities and their higher consciousness. A stone that helped them as well was turquoise. Now, I didn't know that, but I've seen that a couple different places, and it was interesting as I was preparing for this show. I'm going to Santa Fe here next month, and turquoise kept coming up. And every time I've been in Santa Fe, it's like turquoise. Really, it's like, I don't know if it's just such a big deal down there to sell or buy turquoise. But it is very important for the people who live in more of a desert climate to wear turquoise, because it also does what the negative ions of the sea, of the pine trees do for us. So wearing turquoise is very important in helping us stay that pure and that clear energy. So the Lemurians were very big on, their stones, like I mentioned a few moments ago. And we're not going to go into the different aspects of what the stones mean. But there were, the tribe, they were all one tribe. And they had different clans within. And each clan was responsible for a different stone or a crystal. Okay, so maybe one clan, they wore the rose quartz, and they helped facilitate healing and the rose quartz properties, which are the love, help facilitating love. And the other clans would be, let's say, the turquoise clan, and wear different aspects of the turquoise. Now, you wouldn't necessarily find the turquoise clan living near the water. Now, they could visit the water or teleport, because remember, even though the Lemurians had a very physical body, they were very much able to transport, to shapeshift, to, have that healing and that clear energy about them. So usually the clan that had the turquoise would live inland more, probably in the desert more. And they would certainly take times, usually the special times of the year, that they would get together. And so let's say the rose quartz clan and the turquoise clan would make an appointment, or decide to get together and to activate those two stones together in the higher best, the service of everyone, of the whole civilization. Okay, or they're working for a higher good. Okay, now it's important to also know that part of the Lemurian way, as far as when you would see a Lemurian, and I have witnessed this in real time out in the world, when I can see someone's aura, someone's chakra system, just like that. Now, the Lemurians, they were able to see one another's chakra systems. And the chakra system to a Lemurian is just like an internal organ to us, that we know that we have them, and they play a very important role in our way of living in our human bodies. But the Lemurians, that they also recognize not only the internal organs, but that the chakra system was part of that internal organ system. And we have unfortunately got away from that. But for many, it's still there. And for many of us, we can recognize that within one another. It's a matter of remembering that we can, do that. Cheers. Take a drink of your water. So, I'm going to go back to like the food aspect of the Lemurians. Seaweed is a very big part, and seaweed powder. They would dry the seaweed on special big boulders of crystals, and dry the seaweed. And for those Lemurians that didn't live near the water, they would make sure that their other tribe members, the other clans, would be able to prosper from that as well, and eat it as well. Now, that brings me to remembering when I was up in the Salish Islands of the San Juan Islands living. Before that, I didn't give any notice or any thought about seaweed. And once I got up there and walking the beaches, I started wondering about the seaweed. And it kept coming up for me. And I ended up being a roommate with someone who had a business, was making seaweed balm, a medicinal thing, and selling it to health food stores and stuff. And it was interesting because it just like when I was really thinking about the seaweed aspect of Lemuria and the Salish Sea, that this like came up right on my path, and I ended up helping him make some of this product and collect the seaweed and dry it, and just really got into the healing aspects of seaweed and started hydrating it to dry it, and I started cooking with it. Or at the time I was completely doing the raw food way of eating, fruits, nuts, berries, and vegetables. And so I ate a lot of seaweed during that time, and it was very powerful. So I still make sure I get my seaweed in, and seaweed is very much an acquired taste, and either people like it or they don't like it, but I think that that's one of the determinations, whether you are from Lemuria or have lived in Lemuria before, is whether you like seaweed or not. And yeah. So during my studies on Lemuria, I kept running across, and this was a little confusing for me at the time, because I was also Saint Germain kept coming to me, and I was studying with him, and so I took this this gold liquid as being something that Saint Germain was ingesting, and I was just not putting two and two together that the Lemurians also had a liquid gold potion that they would drink and ingest. And it took me many years, actually, just until recently, to put those two things together, that it may have been the same. And it comes from some of the seaweed, some of the pearls that come from our ocean, and it was a mixture that was made with many different things. But it's interesting to read some of the other people's meditations and what they have experienced when going into Lemuria, because they have also had the same experience of this liquid gold mixture that the Lemurians took and drank, especially when they were honoring the light. And going back to like when they would build a hut that was always round or 5-pointed, that much like the pentagram, that they would make those 5 points not necessarily for the element, but for the light, like the sunlight, the sunset, the sunrise, the starlight, and the moonlight. So that's where, because they were such light beings. I find that it's interesting. I keep wanting to say we are the light beings, the Lemurians now, because there are Lemurians among us. And I would gather that some of you who are watching have lived in Lemuria. I believe just in what I have studied, that we are all from Lemuria. We have lived there at one time or another, or our ancestors have. That's just my belief. Whether it resonates with you or not, it's just information. The Lemurians love to dance. They love to do more of the sound healings. They excelled in music. They loved to make instruments that were very musically or sound based, and would put it together, and they had quite the rhythm. So I know a couple people that claim they do not have any rhythm at all, and that they don't dance. But I bet if they ask for some of that Lemurian energy to help them, that they would find their rhythm. So if you're one who wants to learn your rhythm, or even excel in your musical abilities, call in that Lemurian energy. Okay, so they were very, there was a lot more like mineralized water during that time. And this water isn't really this water here. This water is water that I go out into the woods to a sacred well I call a fairy well, and I collect my water, and it has all kinds of minerals and magic in it, because it's the fairy well, of course. But the Lemurians were very adamant about the water that they drank. It needed to be very pure, and they, made sure that it was mineralized. And, part of this liquid gold that they would make had a lot of magical water properties in it as well. So I'm going to jump into the chat room here for just a second and see if there's any comments. I invite you to make any comments, or are you a Lemurian? You can answer that question in the chat. And again, if you are just tuning into this, and you don't know, you want to find out more, I did give a test on my last week's show whether you resonate more with the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, or the Avalonians. And so I would invite you to take that test. You can watch it on the 1-2 Radio Facebook page. You'll have to scroll down quite a bit, or you could go over to my Groovy Green Goddess page and watch it and take a test there to determine what lost land you resonate with the most. So, all right here. So, hi everyone. Thanks for listening. And all right. So, thank you for enjoying my show. I don't see any like pressing topics except for a couple people wanting a reading, and I don't have my cards right in front of me, but I do get the message for those of you wanting a reading today to, when I was like reading through quickly, the message that I got was, hold on. So be patient. Don't make any major decisions right now. Just enjoy the energies, because we are certainly in the month of August, which is a huge ascension month. And just kick back and really see if you can feel this tangible energy. Okay, this is a good time to practice if you don't think that you can pick up the energy, but to practice this skill that you are remembering. So hold on to whether you have career questions, relationship questions, or anything. Just sit with the energy this week, even next week, and then by the end of August, 1st of September, things will start becoming more clear. We'll be out of this this energy, which is quite fun, but it's a roller coaster if you like roller coasters. I don't like roller coasters anymore, but at least I can still be on land and feel this energy and not get as dizzy as I would on a roller coaster. So, if you're questioning whether you are a Lemurian, some of the things to ponder if you don't take the quiz is, are you always searching for your tribe? Are you hardworking and love to be outdoors? Because the Lemurians, they lived outdoors. They, would have shelters here and there depending on the season, but they loved being outdoors, and they loved being around each other, because like I said, they felt as one. Okay. Your strength, if you have a strength that is a very pure look, almost a Pollyanna look on what's going on. It's not that you have your head in the sand, but it's that you have this positive aspect, this positive outlook on in the midst of this chaos that may be ensuing in your life, but you always have this positive way of looking at things. That right there is an indication that you certainly could be of Lemurian descent. And, some of the challenges that Lemurians have in this lifetime are challenges of addiction, and especially if they're not aware of it, it can, be a way of escape, a way of numbing themselves, because Lemurians are extra sensitive, extremely intuitive, extremely sensitive. Many empaths are, have lived in Lemuria. So, Lemurians, they really had this way of integrating their body, their mind, and their spirit. And it was like one being, where we as now we're always trying to we're integrating it too if we're working on our, path or our evolution, our personal getting to know our authentic self, that we're working on it, but it seems to be a lot more fragmented. We work on our spiritual aspect, and then our physical aspect goes out the door for a moment, or we work on our physical aspect, exercising, eating right, and all that, and then our spiritual aspect gets forgotten. So, there's a lot more work that we have to do right now because we have fallen away from that one being, body, mind, and spirit connection. And by connecting with this Lemurian energy, whether you really understand how to connect, just affirming, just setting that intention that you can connect with this Lemurian energy, and doing things in the physical, such as paying attention to our body, mind, and spirit, we can get better at acclimating them all and balance body, mind, and spirit. Okay. Okay, so the sex of Lemurians, there really wasn't, they could choose, they were born, it wasn't something that was really discussed or talked about or even a big deal. And as they got older, they could choose to be male or female or androgynous. It just wasn't, it was more about them experiencing what they wanted to experience. Life was simple. Life was clean. Life was just easy for them. Their main focus was to continue to have this ability to do the cleansing of the earth, keeping everything very pure and simple and light. And they did that through their crystals and that aspect. That was one of their main goals, is to do the healing, and they kept their vibration up so high that they didn't have illness or sickness. That came about later on, many thousands of years later. But Lemurians could also, because they could shapeshift, they could also swim and breathe underwater. They breathe through their third eye. And depending on where their ancestors were from or where they were from, their third eye would be, this was also like a clan thing too, but their third eye would have, like if they were from a star system, they would have a star. If they were from one part of Lemuria, like way over yonder over here, they might have a moon on their third eye. They had symbols to just identified them. It was more about them identifying and with themselves, and not necessarily letting other people know, but it was just what they were into. There were clans that were more into like the star system and the study of the stars and stuff, whereas there were other clans that were more about the fairies or the earth, Mother Gaia, and just really having that aspect. So they also were able to breathe underwater through their third eye, which I think is pretty cool. I think personally that I must have had a bad experience as a Lemurian and in the ocean, because when I had the opportunity to swim with the dolphins in Hawaii one year, I was very excited about it, but I was so dizzy. I don't know what it was, but I was just so painfully dizzy, and maybe it was because the boat was rough, and I am just not one to get out there in the water on the boat. I've tried and tried and tried through the years, and I'm always the one that gets sick. And so, you know, I was sick, but I swam with wild dolphins, and once I got back on the boat, it was like, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. I'll stay on land. But there are people who really identify with the dolphins, that the whales, and they are very much mermaids, which are, you know, mer people are from Lemuria. So more power to you for being able to swim and not get sick or dizzy. But most Lemurians, actually all of them, I was just corrected, all of the Lemurians had long hair, long flowing hair. And the hair was a very important aspect, like it is with Native Americans, you know, with different tribes throughout the world. You know, the hair is a very important aspect of their spirituality. And what was so important about the hair to the Lemurians was each lock of hair, you know how it, well, like this. This is kind of like a lock of hair. Each lock of hair is a transmitter of sorts to get intuitive information. More recently, when I was looking into this, I read that each lock of hair was a transmitter, and if we are coloring our hair, or, you know, putting chemicals on our hair, that we are taking some of that ability to transmit and get intuitive information from our hair. So guess what? I am never coloring my hair again. But what is funny about that is I had decided before I learned this that I am not going to color my hair, because I see some gray coming in, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to see just how gray I am, and I'm going to embrace the gray. And so when I read that, it's like, wow, okay, maybe that's part of the reason why I'm being called to not, put color in my hair any longer. I used to like to put like the purples and the blues, and that's fun to do. But for right now in my life, I'm going to grow out my hair, just like the Lemurians, and experience and learn more about receiving that information from the universe through my hair. So I think that that's part of why some of these cultures really hold on to it's very special to them to keep their long hair, because it's a spiritual thing for many reasons, but to transmit information, get that psychic information through our hair. So next week, I will be talking about Atlantis, and we will spend the whole hour with Atlantis. And I really appreciate you tuning in today to this show. I love this information. I just love how it comes, and the documentaries that I've watched and the books that I have read. One of the books that I do want to mention that I got a lot of information out of, because it resonated so much with my meditations and stuff, so it was like a confirmation, is Lucy Cavendish. Her book, several books of hers, just really resonated and confirmed the information that I have been getting. And so I would really encourage you to look up this author in Australia and look up some of her work. Now, like I said, next week I will be talking about Atlantis. And between here and there, I just wish you a fabulous, beautiful week. Enjoy the eclipse. Enjoy this crazy energy. And, just don't make any decisions until after the eclipse. You can if you want, but, it'll just save yourself some time and energy. So, blessings to you all. I love you all, and I will see you next week.